Welcome, bienvenidos. This is Roxana. You've come to Rox Reads, and today we're going to talk about a little challenge that I made for myself. Now, if you've ever watched my main channel, Metamorphosis Rox, you would know that I am living with an up to now undiagnosed illness. Has been a real game changer for me in many aspects because I love reading, as you can tell from behind me, but I don't retain as much and I confuse all the stories along the way. So one of the methods that I discovered that works for me to not get as confused with the stories is, because I do like to read more than one book at the same time, is if I read the books that I read are on completely different topics. And I was sitting in my bedroom because most of the time I'm in bed because of the pain. And I started thinking, what if I challenged myself to read 10 books in 10 days? I know it's crazy, and so I went around looking for smaller books so that I wouldn't confuse my brain too much. And I came up with 10 options that I'm going to just very quickly go by and explain why I picked these 10 options. And then for the next 10 days, I'm hoping to make a video on each one of the books that I'm working on. And if I don't post them all together, I might not post them all at the same time. I might spread them out a little bit. But these are the books that I'm going to read this month in 10 days. So, the first book there's some of these books I've read before, and I will let you know. Some of these books are a little controversial. Some of them are just plain crazy, and none of them, I don't think any of them are, well, there's some of them that might be in related topics, but they're not all in the same topic. And that's part of the thing. I might think that they're in the same topic and they're not. So the first book that I'm going to show you, and by the way, I'm not telling you in the order that I'm going to read them because I haven't determined that yet. It's going to depend on how I wake up in the morning, how much brain fog I have, because that's one of the symptoms that I'm having issues with. And even though I came up with this idea of writing as I read, that also delays a little bit on the amount of reading. So the first book I'm going to read is, I don't even know how to say this woman's name right, Ayn Rand. But I know she's Ayn Rand. I know she's a controversial author because she wrote Atlas Shrugged, and she's an atheist. And this particular book is called The Virtue of Selfishness. And this is one of the topics where people get really upset with her. I happen to be of the opinion that there's a difference between being selfish and thinking of yourself first. The problem in my opinion, the problem in the planet is because people have decided that thinking of yourself first and being selfish is the same thing. I think there's two completely different things. It's really important that you put yourself first, because if you don't put yourself first, you don't feed yourself first, you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to have any energy or any health or anything to be able to contribute to anybody else. Therefore, it is really important to take care of yourself, which I'm discovering more important than ever right now, ironically enough. However, for what I understand, for other people that have read this book, what she's describing here as selfishness might be closer to what I describe as just taking care of yourself first. So I want to see how those two varied, and no, I've never read this book before. The second book that I'm going to read, and I know, the second book that I have on the pilot, and I know because I've read this before, I can read this in a couple of hours, is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. I absolutely love this book. And one of the things that is happening while I'm waiting for a diagnosis and while I'm getting tested and whatnot, is that a lot of people send me a lot of information about the two possible suspects, which are fibromyalgia and CFS, better known as chronic fatigue syndrome. And the thing about it is that it gets to a point where it's really overwhelming and kind of a little depressing to read all the information. So I've given myself the task of, whenever I get a report or somebody writes to me about the disease or anything like that, for everything that I read that is overwhelming or not the most positive outcome, I read something positive to balance them out. This book is going to get read more than this time around. But for this 10-day challenge, I'm going to pick it. The next book is by Rhonda Byrne. if you don't remember Rhonda Byrne, or if you're not old enough to remember who Rhonda Byrne is, Rhonda Byrne made a little book called The Law of Attraction. Um, I can't. On the Law of Attraction, the actual name of the movie is The Secret. And she wrote the book for The Secret, and then she wrote a couple more. One of them is Hero. And I've never read this one. I absolutely had The Secret on loop for a long time, and I've read that book, but I haven't read this one, The Hero, so I wanted to check it out. Now, another book that I picked is by Dan Roam, and it's called Show and Tell: How Everybody Can Make Extraordinary Presentations. And the main reason for this was for my entertainment purposes. Also because if I decide that I am going to build a business, I need to have some sort of strategy. And one of the issues that I'm seeing myself having at this particular point is I do have social media presence. I do create content all the time, but I don't have a focus yet. And that is something that I decided that by the time my birthday comes up now in November, I need to figure out, okay, what do I really want to do? Do I want to write books? Do I want to do presentations? Do I want to do this or that or the other? And if I want to do it all, have it on a level of organization that I can do it all. Instead of just thinking, well, I want to do this and I want to have something structured. That's the word I was looking for, structured, so that I can go ahead and do what I want to do, because I don't know, we don't know how long we have on this earth, and I don't want to think too far into the future, because obviously that's not a great idea. So I want to spend my present doing as much good as I possibly can. If I die tomorrow and today's the last day I had, I'm happy because I'm doing something productive with myself, even sitting or laying down in bed, or just being in the apartment, but I'm doing something positive. Now, the next one I picked is probably going to be one of the last books I read, just because this is an actual novel, and these take a little longer for my brain to process nowadays. And this one is The Murder in the Orient Express, which I said I was going to read before, but I have not had a chance to read it. I've gotten, for one thing, I made the mistake of reading this right after I saw the movie, and I actually loved the movie. I've seen both movies, the one now and the one back in the 70s, and I love both of them for completely different reasons. And because I know their interpretations of the actual text, if you read the book too close to the movie, one of them is going to interfere with the other one. So I decided to let some time go by, and now that the time has gone by, I'm going to go ahead and give it a read. The next book, I read this when I bought it, and I'm trying to find out what year this was published, because I remember reading it. But it was such a cute read, and it's something that, again, you need to... I finished reading this on June 19, 2000, because it so happens that I actually wrote and gave it stars. I gave it 5 stars. The 10 Fun Things to Do Before You Die, by none other, and nun is a pun because she's actually a nun. That's why I read it that way. Carol Jakosky. I loved this book the first time, but I don't remember reading it. I mean, I remember reading it, but I don't remember what it said. And I know it's another positive, uplifting thing, so that's why it's on the list of 10. I have The Art of Memoir by Mary Karr. I just want to read it, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a hard read. It's going to be a test to see if I can read it in one day, but it doesn't look like a hard read. And I'm probably going to keep this with the Agatha Christie book at the end. This one I started reading because I started reading today. And this one's Crushed by Gary Vaynerchuk. If you have ever watched any of my other channels, then you know I'm a super fan of Gary. I repost his shows on Twitter. I put segments of different things he's filmed on my pages on Facebook and everywhere else. I absolutely love Gary Vaynerchuk. And again, when you're dealing with reality the way I'm dealing with the reality that I have right now, I really need somebody that's really positive. I've always said that Gary is ridiculously positive. So that's why I'm going to read this. I read this every time that I get down on myself or that I get a little stuck on ideas and I want to come up with new ideas. This is the book I read. Always. I've read it like 6 times already. The next book that I am going to read, I have no idea when I bought this, but it looks very perfectly pristine on the inside, so I'm going to say that I don't think I've ever read it. And it's called What to Do with the Rest of Your Life by Robin Ryan. And I'm telling you, I don't even know how old this book is, but I can tell you by the... Okay, here's the thing. There's a... This is, I don't even know what to call this because it's not really a page holder, but it's from a Librería Norberto González. And this Librería bookstore is in Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico, which means it's more than 10 years old. The book is more than 10 years old because I've been in the States for 9 years now. And I don't believe I went to Rio Piedras anytime the last year I was in Puerto Rico. So I'm going to say 10 years. And last but not least, this book I started reading. I haven't finished it, so I decided, it's not a hard book to read, and I absolutely love this guy also. The dreams of being an entrepreneur got dashed so many times that I stopped reading when I started, after I started this. But it's the original book from Mike Michalowicz called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. So, as you can see, I have maybe 3 business books. Hold on, let me see. 3 business books. I have 3, no, actually 4. 4 books, 4 feel good books. And then the last 3 are a novel, What to Do with the Rest of Your Life, and The Art of a Memoir, which is probably the order in which I'm going to read them. I hope that this inspires you to take a look at what you have at home and decide to do a quick read on a weekend. I don't expect you to read 10 books in a time, but I'm hoping that this will encourage you to pick a book at home and take a weekend, get off the computer, do whatever you have to do, and just focus on one thing that will bring you joy, entertain you, educate you, or even just inspire you to do something else. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.